This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And if you're a fast break watcher, this is going to make sense for you. I am officially, Brandon, off the IR. I was on the IR this past weekend, as you can probably hear in my voice if you're an audio listener or on YouTube. I probably sound like I took a sock and either shoved it like down my throat to where it's like, Ricky, why do you kind of sound like you're muffled? Or I might sound nasally, depending on how you're feeling. I'm getting over a cold. I wasn't really sick this weekend. It was just, I came home Friday, did not have a voice. Like, could not talk at all. Couldn't do the fast break, which I was very upset about. So I was on the IR, Sean said, this weekend. I am officially off of it. First podcast back doing the Primetime Podcast. Welcome in. As always, talking about college football, college basketball, but today we're just doing college football. Before we get into everything, how are you doing, Brandon?
Doing pretty well.
How are you doing?
Doing pretty well. Got a couple of days coming up here that will be off for Thanksgiving, which will be very nice. It'll be some nice time to spend with the family, but I'm doing well to be back here in studio. That's always nice. To be here at this microphone and not have to use the phone. And for that one annoying person who keeps saying, hey, dude, speak into the phone. It's called the phone system. You don't always have a perfect one. We don't have the CBS level quality phone system.
Well, we don't have the subway hotline.
Not yet.
No.
Not yet.
ESPN has. I completely forgot that we were phone calling.
Yeah.
Last week.
Just a week ago.
Great to have you back in the studio. We got a jam-packed show, like I said, talking all college football. The most exciting week of the year is here. Like, we're going to have Ohio State, Michigan this week. The Iron Bowl is this week. The Big 12 championship, basically, which could depend who is in that Big 12 title game. A ton of tough games coming up this week.
And I'll be honest with you, I've got to first give a little apology, I think, to Texas fans who I think I wrote off a little bit from that Big 12 title. I was really only looking at West Virginia and Oklahoma, but in my mind and what I saw, it was playing out where it would be those two.
Well,
and
you thought the curse was over.
Oklahoma State's not a good team this year. I think it's very simple to say that.
Oh, man.
And I think it's also a true fact to say that they have not been good this year. But West Virginia they proved. They helped to prove that there isn't a lot of effort put into the defensive side of things. There just isn't. I mean, I would say they have, of those big, kind of 3 or 4 at the top, they probably have one of the better defenses, but that's not saying a whole lot. But I do have to give an apology to Texas fans for kind of writing you guys off in that Big 12 championship title. Still very, very much alive for it.
Well, before we get into what we're going to talk about today, a little bit of housekeeping here at the beginning. Number one, make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. You want to help support the channel, want to help us continue to do what we do for you guys each week. If you join us at the $10 tier, you can join a podcast each and every month. You are at that tier. You can also help us by getting yourself an MVP t-shirt. That's down below in the description, also at mostvaluablepodcast.com, where you can catch MVP each and every day. And last but not least, I did not check before the podcast, so I'll do it right now. I don't think we got a new rating for the Primetime Podcast on iTunes, but it's always good to check. I think the last one is still from Dan, and it is. So if you want to be the newest rating and have me read your rating on the podcast, make sure to go over to Apple Podcasts and iTunes and give us a rating on there. I hope it's a 5-star rating, but whatever you think we're worth, go ahead and give us that rating. But Brandon, jam-packed show. Les Miles coming back. He's going to be the head coach of the Rock Chalk Jayhawks, Kansas, getting their guy. Then we're going to dive in to some college football playoff, a nightmare scenario that could happen not this weekend, the next 2 weeks, but we're going to dive into that nightmare scenario and what it means for the college football playoff as a whole. And then we're going to end the show kind of talking a little bit of NFL draft, looking at Damian Harris. Will, could, should, kind of haven't decided exactly the wording of that, but we're going to look at his validity as a first-round pick this year before officially ending the show with our picks like we do each and every week. But Brandon, let's start off the biggest news of the week, the one that, like I told you as I came in today, just fell into our laps yesterday as we're sitting there watching NFL Sunday. Les Miles will be back on a college football sideline. He will be the next coach of the Kansas Jayhawks. And I'm just going to ask you right away, is Les Miles the guy? Can he turn around the Jayhawk football program?
I think Les Miles certainly can do it. It's exciting to see Les Miles back in the coaching sphere. I wasn't sure, actually, for a little bit if he was going to jump back in. Or if he was going to wait for that perfect job. Or if he was just going to let them all pass him by. Because, I mean, we've seen the amount of open jobs that have come available the last couple of years, and Les Miles has not been in on those. But now, here he is. His relationship with Jeff Long from their days, I think, at Michigan when he was an assistant there, when they were both assistants there, that relationship is, I think, ultimately what drew in Les Miles for that position, with Jeff Long being the athletic director at Kansas. This is going to be a spectacular thing for the Kansas Jayhawks in terms of their football program, because what they haven't had in a very long time, Ricky, is they haven't had a recruiting system. They haven't had a recruiting system, and by virtue of that, they haven't had really good recruits. Les Miles knows how to recruit. He's always been very good at recruiting. That's why he was able to build really kind of the powerhouse he had for a number of years over at LSU. And now, while some people may say, well, why would he want to take that Kansas job? Why would he want to do that? Why would he want to go into the Big 12? Well, he is not unfamiliar with the Big 12. He coached at Oklahoma State for a number of years, from 2001 to 2004, where he had a 28-21 coaching record. Les Miles really is an outstanding coach. In all but one season of being a head coach, he made a bowl game, or at the time, the BCS championship game. This is a coach who, what he will certainly bring to this Kansas team outside of recruiting and a system to do that, is he's going to implement a defense. People are still going to be weary of how his offense will work, because that's what ousted him over at LSU, is that he's the Mad Hatter. His offense wasn't running at the level that it needed to, or they believed it needed to, for them to get on track and be winning football games and be a successful team, which, if they look at how they had been for the last couple of years, yeah, they'd been a pretty darn good, successful team. But they wanted something different. But defense, that's what he can certainly bring as well, as defense. That's what Kansas has been horrible at for so long, as defense. Could Les Miles ultimately, now this takes a number of years to turn over a roster, especially a roster as big as a football roster, and get in your guys and get in the talent level of guys that you want to have to be able to build the program that you want to see. But this could be one of the first times where we truly see a Big 12 team that is maybe more known for its defense than its offense. And that could be a very real possibility. Well, and I think that's the first thing that people look at, is like, I had Damascus, who's one of our fans on Twitter, always hits me up on Twitter when I tweeted out the SI article and quoted you in it and was like, wow, look at what was going on. He hit me up, and that was kind of a first concern of like, this is not an offensive-minded coach. And I think that's the first thing that people are going to go, why? Because the Big 12, we always joke, the comment section always jokes, it's like the Big 12, no defense here. It's just all offense, all high-powered offense. You go to an Oklahoma State-Oklahoma game, and it's 54-48. Look at the past weekend with West Virginia and Oklahoma State. High scores, no defense here. Where if you go to the SEC, it's a little bit different. Some high scores, but there are some games where it's like, oh, wow, that was a 14-10 game. There was one where it was like, 9-0 was an Alabama-LSU game.
from the past. And to me, the biggest thing that this does for Kansas, and you hit on it, and this is the thing that I think Les Miles has to do, is he needs to hit on recruiting. Not only does Kansas have coming in this year, they're going to have, I'm reading here from an ESPN article. It says, Miles should create an immediate bump in ticket sales. More importantly, he'll energize Kansas donors as the athletic department moves along its 5-year, $350 million fundraising campaign. This is going to include a new practice facility that's set to open in the spring. They're going to renovate Memorial Stadium. You've got Jeff Long, who said that the Kansas football coach Dave Beatty was only making $600,000 annually. The school sent a message: we don't care about football. We're now Les Miles is making about $2 million, but think $2.6 million with this hire annually. Where this to me is the beginning. Like, hey, we're gonna get this. The stadium is gonna be set in. We're gonna get a new practice facility. He's got to recruit, though, and I think that's the reason. Yeah, the relationship between Long and Les Miles helps, but the big thing is you got to recruit, because that's the one thing that I thought is going to be his biggest strength, is not only is he a name that kids will want to go play for because he speaks success, especially at LSU. The thing that I'm wondering, I don't want to say for sure that he can come in and just take over again because he hasn't been in the coaching realm for quite a bit. But my question is, can he do a similar thing that Jim Harbaugh did? Come in and encroach on Nick Saban's territory, Nick Saban's recruits. Remember Jim Harbaugh? We're going into Texas. We're rattling it up with Nick Saban where he wasn't liking what Jim Harbaugh was doing. Is Les Miles going to do that same thing? Hey, Nick, I'm looking at the same guys you are. I know this SC, this like southeastern area where all these good football talents come from. I'm going for the same guys you're going to go for, and eventually those guys will want to go to Kansas because of Les Miles.
I think that Les Miles is going to go to the same spots that he was always able to get really good talent before. He's certainly going to have to expand, and he will, to other parts of the country, but why not go to what was the bread and butter for you for so many years when you were at LSU for so many years? Practically from 2002 till 2016 2005 to 2016, but that would be a pretty smart and reasonable, I think. One other thing that's also interesting is Les Miles talking about in his press conference that he spent some time when he was away from the game actually almost critiquing himself on how he could develop a different offensive scheme and how he could evolve or how he would be able to implement a scheme based off of the evolved offense that we're starting to see in all of football at the college level and at the NFL level.
Well, especially at the pros. It's like
one
thing at the pros, it's like you'll hear on gameplay all the time where the play-by-play or the color guy goes, hey, we've been seeing this in college for years. It's just trickled on up now to the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, you are going to continue to see more of that. People are going to continue to see more offense. People like to see a lot of points. Fans like to see a lot of points. That's how you make money. So that's a reasonable thing for any team to want to score more points. Another thing interesting is that Les Miles never in his press conference never once committed to any type of style or any type of offense that he would run.
See, but I like that.
Never saying what he was going to do, because that's good, because he may still also be looking. He may have an idea of what he wants to do, and he certainly does. But he also wants to see what kind of quarterbacks he can go get to see what styles can work for both sides.
It's like whatever's going to work for your team. If you've got a guy who's a spread guy and you want to fit him into that West Coast kind of hole, it's like taking that square peg, putting it into that round hole. You're never going to get that to completely fit. Where I like it because, like, hey, I'm going to look at what kind of a team we have and then go, hey, I'm going to use this offense because this is the team that we have and it's going to work with this set of players, this quarterback that I have running the team.
Yeah, and I think that when you think, and I even said that Les Miles is a guy who has pretty much been known for his defense. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's been able to conjure up some offense, but he has been a defensive-minded head coach throughout his career, certainly at his time at LSU. That's a lot of times where it focused, was defense, 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 with offense kind of as a second, with defense being the first. But I think he does understand that if he wants to win in this league, the league has changed. The league has evolved. While he can still focus on defense and spend time bettering the defense, he needs to make a prolific offense. Because not just for college football, but for the conference that you've come into, they are about scoring points. I was sitting at the dinner table the other night with my dad, with my mom and my dad, and sitting with them and talking about how in the Big Ten, you could see a score that the final is 10-6. You'll never see that in the Big 12. That's unheard of. If it's 10-6, everyone must have been benched, because you are going to see 45-42. You're going to see 38-35. Those are the games you get in the Big 12. And you have to, while defense will be important, you have to understand the league you're in. You have to understand the conference you're in. And you have to be able to find guys and recruit guys and have a system that scores points on the reg, that is scoring at least 25 to 30 points per game, somewhere in that. And that may not even be enough to win yourself football games, but you have to be able to score points in the Big 12. It's a must.
Well, and the thing that I look at, too, is I can see how there might be some Kansas fans out there who might be skeptical of this. Might be like, hey, I love the hire, I love Les Miles, but I'm not going to get overhyped about this, because the one thing, and I'm looking at this ESPN article, where they asked an FBS assistant with ties to Kansas, didn't want his name being revealed. He said, and I quote, "It's like another Charlie Weiss. We'll see how it goes. Is Miles that much of a personality to sell tickets?" And another quote they have from Glenn Mason, who coached Kansas from 88 all the way to 1996. His quote is, "It might initially do it, but unless you see credibility on the field, improvement on the field, success on the field, that is not going to be the case." Like, you have to see the success going out there. You can't just say, oh, we've got Les Miles. So, I mean, there might be people in the Kansas fandom that might look at it and go, yeah, I like the hire. But, yeah, we got Charlie Weiss, who was coming off of Florida, coming off of the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a guy that was supposed to bring us back to glory. It didn't really work out that way for Charlie Weiss in Kansas. So I can maybe see why there might be some Kansas fans that are skeptic of this because of the past, because of getting big names like a Charlie Weiss to be your head coach.
I could understand that too. Take a look at UCLA. They got Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, I think in a lot of ways, was a name. He was a big name to get. Chip Kelly. Oh, let's bring him in. And his success that was tied to Oregon, with his success that was tied to Marcus Mariota, and his success that was tied to one way of doing things. And you talk about how Les Miles here's a difference. Les Miles has talked about how he knows he has had to change. And due to what's happening, he will change. Chip Kelly will never change.
Well,
he will never change. He will run the offense the way that he wants to run the offense, and you're either with him in running it or you are not. And that's where I think there will be that difference. Is Les Miles isn't just a name that they're going to get to be able to try and sell seats, sell tickets to get people into the seats, because again, like that one reporter said, that only goes so far. That only sticks for maybe one season, a half a season. Then people start to be like, "Oh, great, you have Les Miles, but we still have 0 wins." Yeah. So what am I supposed to still be like excited about this or not? Les Miles, I truly believe will be different, and his record speaks to that. 114-34 in his 12 years at LSU. He was 8-4 in bowl games. Got to the a bowl game every single year. Again, with 2 of those being BCS championships. LSU probably in a much different, not even probably, take off the probably, much different spot. He came in his first year with LSU in 2005. They went 11-2. His next year, 11-2. His next year, 12-2. He's not going to go 11-2, 11-2, and 12-2 with Kansas. There will be improvement, but it's going to take longer. It's probably going to be a little bit more, much more difficult. But he has a track record to say, trust in Les Miles.
Here's one thing I want to say, and I know this is because in our hot seat segment, you were saying that Chip Kelly should be fired after already being hired by UCLA.
Still believe
I know
it.
you hate that, but I'm just going to throw this out here because I learned this week from Colin Cowherd as he tweeted out after the win over USC. Congrats to Chip Kelly playing 20 freshmen, 1 senior on offense. So I just want to, let's put an asterisk next to Chip Kelly. Let's see after these guys grow. And Les Miles could be going through the same thing where he's going to have he's got to come in and get this recruiting class going because we've got the rest of November, December, January, and then February is signing day. And that's a good thing that I like about this, that they got it done now to where he can jump into recruiting now so that they can have a good signing day for 2019.
I think you're right. My final thing is I'll go back to the Chip Kelly point just for a minute. It's that I think that, yes, you do have to understand where they're at. But he's stuck in his ways. He always has been. He was stuck in his ways when he went to the NFL. He wasn't terrible in the NFL by any means, I don't think. But he is a guy who is going to do it the Chip Kelly way. You're not going to tell him otherwise. He's not going to change for you. If he's changing, it's because he wants to. He won't. That's where I'm very interested to see when he has all upperclassmen and how they're playing for him then. Because obviously it's been a lost season for UCLA. A lot of people believed that it would be. But Chip Kelly, if he comes out and he ends up exploding as a head coach, being great over at UCLA, I'll eat my words, but I don't think I'll have to.
Last thing I'll ask you before we go into college football playoff time is we're both going to put a percentage on it. The one choice, Les Miles gets it done, turns around the KU football program. The other side becomes a similar model of Charlie Weiss, where has 3 or 4 years, and then he's out because he couldn't turn around. What's your percentage? 50-50, 60-40? What are you thinking?
I'm going to say that there's an 80% chance that he's able to turn it around. I think he's too smart. He's too football intelligent. And from a guy who it sounds like has not jumped at anything too quickly, we certainly know that. He's been out since 2016, and he didn't take the very first job that was attractive that came along that he wanted to get back, in so badly that he just took that.
And I got something about that I'll say at the end.
He's a guy who looks like has really studied the football atmosphere and the playing level and where college football is, where the NFL is, how the two kind of combine. And I think he's been very careful about what he wanted to do. This is not just a jumping at it. This is a very strategic. Their athletic director came to him. They've been in discussions since Beatty was gone. I think that Les Miles is getting in at the time he believes is right for him. That's why I think he'll be a really good head coach and eventually be able to turn Kansas around.
So first I'll give my answer. I'm going to go 75% chance he does, 25% that he does not. And the main reason for that 25% does not, what's the offense going to look like? Because he is in an offensive conference. Is he going to change the mold and say, hey, we're a defensive team, we're going to stop these offenses in the Big 12? Or is it going to be, yeah, your defense is okay, but your offense stinks less, and these other offenses like Lincoln Riley's are scoring at will against you because he's more on the Sean McVay side of things. Here's my last thought, too, to go into why he waited so long in my head. I think that Les Miles was waiting for the Michigan job. That's what I think. I believe that he was sitting there saying, you know what? the only job I'm going to take is if Michigan comes along, sure, I'll take it. Any other job, I don't want to coach right now. And for a while, there was maybe some validity to that. Jim Harbaugh, we're talking every year how he can't beat Ohio State, this and that. He's on the hot seat here. Michigan fans saying, no, he's not. We're saying, yes, he is. But this year has been completely different for Michigan. Besides their loss to Notre Dame, Ohio State hasn't looked well. It looks like Jim Harbaugh might be able to get his first win over Ohio State, which would definitely erase all the other losses that he's had up to this point, to where I think that right now Les Miles looked at this season for Michigan and said, you know what, I want to get back into it. I don't think that dream job that I wanted is going to open up. I know Jeff. I've got a relationship with Jeff. Let's go ahead. Let's get it done. And maybe it was also a little bit of Jeff Long being able to convince Les Miles to come over to Kansas as well. But I totally, after all this, kind of believe that Les Miles might have been just, you know what, I'm going to stay out of coaching. But if that Michigan job comes along, that's a job I'm not going to say no to. And that's kind of my little, I don't know Les. I don't have him in my phone or anything. That's just my little hypothesis that I have on top of my head with everything. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below in that comment section. What do you think of Les Miles? Will it be another Charlie Weiss-like coach at KU, or will he finally be able to turn around the KU football program? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.